Children are born into a family, but at the same time, they're born into a neighborhood, a culture, a community, a country, and all of that intersects with who that child is at birth, genetically, historically, and that really shapes those experiences and how they respond. We know that there are some universally positive experiences that really support healthy kids and healthy families. Tufts University calls these the building blocks of hope, and they're pretty simple and straightforward. We know that it's relationships. So it's relationships within the family, with other supportive adults, coaches, teachers, and other children, having healthy relationships, having a safe and stable environment. So do they have a school that feels safe and welcoming? Are there parks in their neighborhood that are a safe place to play? Do they know with certainty where they're going to sleep tonight? So having those stable environments where the child feels safe and stable and the parent is able to feel the same.
Welcome to the With You at Every Step podcast. We address your healthcare questions and help you navigate life's challenges. Our guests share their expertise and real-world advice related to care for older adults, grief and healing, and pregnancy and parenting. EveryStep is a nonprofit healthcare and human services organization offering dozens of programs that are there when people need us most. Learn more about our free and low-cost services at everystep.org. Thank you for listening. Here is our host, Polly Carver-Kimm.
And welcome to With You at Every Step. We welcome back to our podcast this morning, Kylie Spies, who is the Healthy Outcomes Manager at EveryStep. And Kylie, thanks for being brave enough to come back to talk to us again.
Thanks for having us on again.
Well, we are launching, EveryStep is launching a new program. It has been launched. And I just think this is such a brilliant idea. And I think it's going to do a lot of good in the community. But I think you will think that too, Mr. or Ms. Listener, after you learn about it. It's called the Well-Being Program. Is that the exact correct name there?
Well-Being.
Well-Being Connections. Thank you. I knew I had left a word out. And I guess, can you just give us the 40,000-foot view? What is Well-Being Connections?
So Well-Being Connections is a free, voluntary mental health service coordination program that's available to families in Polk County. And when we say service coordination, we're not talking about the mental health services a family might need, like therapy, medication, that sort of thing. What we're really looking at is all those gaps that fall in between while the family's trying to navigate those needs. The things like interfacing with the school, maybe there's some legal involvement that the family's dealing with, meeting those basic needs like transportation, health insurance, those sorts of things. So while the services are wrapped around the child, our role is really to wrap around that family and help them address any of those needs that will help them manage their child's health and well-being.
And that is accomplished through a simple little card that you hand out. Is that correct? I mean, there's a lot more behind it, but it starts with that information that if the police are involved, the police can provide to the family.
We're really just getting rolling with the card. We're about to drop that in the hands of our law enforcement professionals next week, actually. So far, it's mostly been word of mouth. It's been through our networks. We have a lot of partners that work with kids and families at EveryStep. Our staff comes from different backgrounds, different walks of life. So it's really just kind of person to person connecting on how we can reach families and provide these services.
Well, I know a lot of times a family may realize, well, we need help beyond what we thought we needed when especially a child is in the midst of a mental health crisis. Things that may have been boiling around at the surface or conditions that you already knew about, depression or some other mental health condition that you thought had been handled, all of a sudden blows up and you're in the middle of something and you just don't know where to turn. And this program helps sort of bring all these pieces together, like you just mentioned, to help the family and the child and try to get things back on track to go ahead to, a healthy future.
That's right. And while it's considered a crisis response program, crisis really depends on the family and what the family sees as a crisis. We often think about a youth mental health crisis is those really visible external things. Like you've got a youth who has become suicidal or has become violent, or you're seeing some risky behaviors. Sometimes that's more internal. You've got a child that's internalizing those signs where their behavior has suddenly changed. They've withdrawn socially, or, they're seeing a lot of physical changes, things like sleep changes, appetite, kind of those undefined physical complaints, stomach aches, headaches. They can indicate mental health changes. They can also indicate other, concerns in the child's life, things like intimate partner violence, abuse, or neglect. So substance use, just so parents kind of noticing a concern with their child and really wanting to help address that. And sometimes it's just other types of crisis that aren't necessarily rooted in a mental health diagnosis. Things like, a developmental shift that's causing some challenges within the family. Could be grief and loss, collective trauma. If we have communities that experience a natural disaster, or, a school violence episode, a death of a classmate, some death of a family member, sometimes we're helping the family kind of wrap around them and help them manage their child's response when they see those behavior changes that they want to help their child through.
Kylie, I'm glad you brought up those different crises with quotation marks around them, because we do as a society, a crisis is, the epitome of the worst thing that could ever happen to you. But I would suspect that in most American homes, there are little crises going on that they don't really want the neighbors to know about. And maybe they don't really want the school to know about it because, they feel like ashamed maybe that they're going through something like this, like nobody else in the world is having to deal with this problem, even though probably the neighbor is too. And this program can really, I think it just provides a lot of, support and understanding and empathy to help families through what they may think, well, this isn't, I don't need to call a special number for this. So this is just what our family's going through. But there is help for those kinds of things going on in families too.
I'm a social worker. I think in systems. I think in ecosystems. And the thing that I always say is like, children are born into a family, but at the same time, they're born into a neighborhood, a culture, a community, a country. And all of that intersects with who that child is at birth, genetically, historically. And that really shapes those experiences and how they respond. We know that there are some universally positive experiences that really support healthy kids and healthy families. Tufts University calls these the building blocks of hope. And they're pretty simple and straightforward. We know that it's relationships. So it's relationships within the family, with other supportive adults, coaches, teachers, and other children, having healthy relationships. Having a safe and stable environment. So do they have a school that feels safe and welcoming? Are there parks in their neighborhood that are a safe place to play? Do they know with certainty where they're going to sleep tonight? So having those stable environments where the child feels safe and stable and the parent is able to feel the same. Engagement. So we know that children really benefit from opportunities to belong, opportunities to connect. And adults need those too. When we talk about our village, like that's really those other adults, those ties that we have in the community that make us feel seen and important. So it's a place where children and adults can find self-worth. They can learn that they have something to contribute. For some kids, this is a sport or a club. Sometimes it's like a youth group. Just anywhere where they start to see their place in society and where they belong. And then the last one is emotional growth. So that's opportunities to interact with others, to try and fail as a child, to try to navigate a game or a project and to fail, to have conflict, to learn from it and move forward anyway. That is so important to a child's development and their self-efficacy. And then when we consider a number of parents are trying to parent not having received many of those positive experiences themselves, it's really tough to navigate the challenges of parenting and just the challenges of adulting in general. You're parenting while you're trying to have a job and manage your family's finances, manage your own health. Just can just be so overloading. And even if you have everything you need, we just have a serious mental health provider shortage nationally, but especially in Iowa. So sometimes families feel like they've got everything under control. They just cannot find a provider that has what their child needs. So that's another thing that we can do it as minimally as that. We're helping you get on wait lists and helping you make calls. or we're really providing that more comprehensive support to parents that have a lot of those challenges happening at the same time.
And you also are coming into it with a professional's view where, the layman may just think, well, the husband lost his job and now they're, on a one income. And that is one of the things. But you look at it from social determinants of health platform, where you live, how much education you've had, what gender you are, what the color of your skin is. All these things kind of combine from my past work in social determinants of health that really, they do determine how healthy you are, not necessarily how healthy you can be, but they can be real stumbling blocks to a healthy life from childhood on up.
They can be. And of course, it's not destiny. There's always opportunities for folks to overcome and battle, through the things that challenge them and move forward. But it's not easy. It's not easy even if you didn't experience any of those adversities. We know that about 2/3 of adults in Iowa experienced one or more adverse childhood experience before they were 18. And those typically refer to conditions that are in the home and family, things like abuse or neglect. They witnessed violence in the home. They were separated from a caregiver. They had a caregiver who had a mental health condition or substance use condition. We know a lot of parents are parenting through those challenges. And then when you start to look at the economics around that, you can add a lot of financial pressures to a lot of folks. So the data says that about 1/3 of Americans say they cannot afford a $400 emergency expense. We all know it doesn't take much to hit a $400 expense. That could happen. That's a running over a nail on your way to work. And if you need that job to keep your health insurance and your benefits and so forth, that $400 emergency is much more expensive. We also know from the United Way Alice survey that about 1/4 of Iowa households with children are living below that survival line, meaning they're working, but they're not making enough to even meet their basic needs. And just being above that line is not even a guarantee of security, especially if you've got multiple children, you own a home, you've got a lot of other challenges happening around you. It can feel like every parents are on the razor's edge all the time. And then add a stressful job that's very physical, where you could get hurt on any given day and lose your livelihood. Add a chronic health condition. You've got a parent who's diabetic, who requires heart medication, has their own chronic mental health condition they're managing. Maybe they have aging parents who they're also trying to care for at the same time. Those stressors really add up and they really impact that family's ability to buffer that stress and kind of support the child and each other through that mental health challenge. So our goal really is to help alleviate some of those by walking alongside the family and figuring out what it is that they need, what they want, how they want to move forward, and not making those decisions for them, but making those decisions a little lighter, making that work a little lighter for them as they're trying to put all that together.
Well, if you're going through any of the issues that you just outlined, and you're trying to find help online for whatever it is that you're challenged with, first of all, you're gonna get the paid advertisements that you think, well, that's not really what I want. I just Googled, the psychiatric help or mental health counselor, and then later, you're going through these lists and lists of resources. You don't know exactly what you do need, or is that more than what I need? And that's where I think this program, Wellbeing Connections, is so critical, is that you can give expert connections. This is a great place to go to if you need this. Here's a great resource for that. And that, I think, is half the battle, is just finding the resources that you need.
Nothing in healthcare is simple and straightforward. We all know that. Mental health care, especially children's mental health, even more so. Depending on the diagnosis, the condition, like so many different factors, you may find that there's really only this one type of therapy, only this insurance covers it, only this provider. So it really can be a web where what you think you are looking for is actually not available. So, this just, it's a lot, even for a professional to try to wrap their head around. So our goal is really to take some of that off of the shoulders of the family and to be able to provide them with good information to make those decisions.
Now, do you need to be in a certain, like within a crisis, or do you need to be under certain income guidelines to access these connections that the Wellbeing Connections program can provide to you?
So we can serve any family in Polk County who have a child under 18 who's experiencing a mental health crisis. We just look at whether you live in Polk County, and then long term, sometimes those criteria will change. We want to make sure that the child has an adequate diagnosis that'll help them get care. But when it comes to our services and making that call, if you've got a kid under 18 in Polk County, then that family has some crisis needs, we're there too.
Wow, that is just excellent. Great to know. I think kind of closing out here a little bit on a happy note or a hopeful note is we've been talking a lot about all the terrible things that can happen to us. That we've all had awful things happen to us. Let's be honest. Some people it's bigger and it affects them more, but there is hope. You can have a horrible thing happen to you and you can still come out better and stronger on the other side. I think they call that resiliency. And can you talk a little bit about that you may be in an awful situation today, but that doesn't mean that's your destiny now, that awful situation.
That's right. Nothing that's happened to us, our health history, our mental health history, our family, our childhood, none of that is destiny. It all influences who we are, but it does not define who we are. And as you mentioned, resilience is really that ability to absorb that impact and move forward, to kind of buffer it, move forward. And it is totally possible to live a full and healthy, happy life with a mental health condition. But having those positive experiences, like I said, those social supports, that stable environment, having your needs met really helps families have that resiliency. And it's when families have access to good quality health care, a provider that's available, that's listening to them, that's adapting to their needs, that really builds resiliency, the capacity to receive that care. So, the insurance, the transportation, the awareness that it's needed. It's very common that people will start taking mental health medications and then feel better and stop. They're like, well, I'm better now. So having that awareness that this is a condition I will continue to manage, maybe long-term, maybe forever. And having that support system is helpful for things like that, to kind of be a mirror for you. Like, I noticed that you didn't eat today. I noticed that you canceled your doctor's appointment. Hey, let's go, I'll refill your medications for you. So that kind of support, but also just sometimes it's helpful to help you with some of those adaptations. Like, a lot of folks with ADHD will say, as soon as I got married, I turned over my finances to my spouse because I can't manage those effectively. So modification is that supportive person in your life who can help you manage those areas where you struggle. And really, just more than anything, is just having that person that makes you feel less alone and, makes you feel connected and seen and valued. All those things really, really impact a person's well-being and let them move forward in the world, manage the condition that they find themselves in.
That is all very true. I was just thinking, as I don't feel like I'm going through any crises right now, but there are things that, along those lines, I'll be like, okay, I don't like talking to the car dealership, to my husband. You make the call. I just don't like doing that. Okay. So that is a really, trite example of, the bigger issues, but having someone that you can turn to say, can you just do this for me? Or can you help me do this? Or give me advice on how to do this, and have someone trusted that will help you through those things. And the Wellbeing Connections, if you feel like you don't have that right now in your family, this is a means of connecting you to other programs and organizations and providers that could perhaps provide that you feel like you're missing right now until you can make those other connections.
Now imagine that your job was talking to the car dealer every day. It'd get pretty tiring pretty fast, right? It starts to wear on you. So
Absolutely.
Yes, that social support is just, cannot understate how important that is. And you can be anybody's social support. It doesn't have to be your own child, doesn't have to be your partner. If you've got a niece or a nephew or a friend who's a parent, just being that sounding board, that safe person for them makes such an impact on on that person's life, but, it has ripple effects out into the community as well.
That's a good opportunity to put a plug in for, looking out for other people from everybody who's listening, our points of view. You work with people every day, I imagine, who, one day they come into work and they just don't seem the same. Something must be bothering, hey, what's going on? Anything I can do? And you don't have to drill down into their most secret personal issues, but just to show that you care about people around you, or the person at the grocery store who is having a really difficult time. Maybe just saying, hey, is there anything I can do to help you? We're all in this together, so might as well try to help everybody out if we can, because you never know what somebody's going through.
I mean, positive experiences aren't supposed to be in rank order, but I really always think the relationships is the most important. It comes back to that. Everything else in our life so often flows from those relationships.
If anyone wants to get in touch with you about the Wellbeing Connections program, Kylie, how do they do that?
You can give us a call. We have a number set up that one of our staff will answer. It's not a 24-hour line, but we will get back to you as quickly as we can. You can give us a call. The number is 515-271-1311, or you can email us at wellbeingconnection, it's all one word, wellbeingconnections@everystep.org.
Kylie, thanks again for being on the podcast today. We appreciate your expertise. If you have any other questions, or perhaps you need to find care for yourself or a loved one in any of the areas that EveryStep provides, you can go to our website at everystep.org/care, CARE, everystep.org/care. There's just a really simple form you fill out online, you press send, and then one of our members of our staff will get in touch with you to help you out, figure out what we can do to get you back on your feet and feeling good and healthy again. That's With You at Every Step. Kylie Spies has been our guest today. We sure appreciate that. And thank you for tuning in.